Hey guys, Matt Science here. Welcome to episode 18 of r/malicious compliance, where the footage is raw, so raw, and literally the only thing I do is removing the stuff that you don't see at the start and the end, because you don't need to see like the OBS stuff. But yeah, please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. So, first story I have here for today is this one, because I love my mathematics. 3 plus 3 plus 1.5 equals, all you're getting is a half hour tops. Years ago, one of my employees and clients decided to set up a new office in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I got chosen to spend 3 weeks there getting the new space set up. Also chosen for the job was a guy from another division's Chicago office, Dave. I've never worked with Dave before, but from the start I didn't like him much. It was never less than 15 minutes late. He lumbered like a zombie, and I caught him dozing off more than a few times during the first week on site. Still, he was the closest thing I had to a friend in Fort Wayne, so I invited him out to the bar on Friday for all the company-funded booze we could drink. I wish, he says. I'm going home and passing out until Monday. The commute has been killing me. Wait, what? It seems Dave's boss has been a dick, and instead of paying for a plane ticket, hotel, and rental car like my boss had, he instructed Dave to drive. Nah. Huh. Me. Dude, that's like totally no bueno. 6 hours a day just driving? Yeah, it sucks. Still, it'd be killer money. That puts you at, what, like 70 hours this week? Jeez. Make sure you put in your gas and tolls quick, though. The last time I had to reimburse for expenses, it took them over a month. I can see what little light that Dave's eyes held fade. They're not paying for any of that. Hearing that, I put in a call to my boss, who was as puzzled as I was. If he worked for our division, he'd be paid for his drive time and expenses at least. And we're both pretty sure it was corporate etiquette, and something individual divisions could choose not to obey. Unfortunately, neither I nor my boss had any say in the matter, and neither of us were familiar with Illinois or Indiana labor law, so all we could do was advise Dave to save his receipts for the IRS and complain to HR. On Monday, Dave was late again. After an hour, I was worried and called his cell phone. I just passed Portage, making pretty good time, all things considered. I should be there in about 2 hours. Dave sounded pretty happy about it, so I figured he'd been required to stop into his office before heading out for some reason. Okay, Dave, I'll see you then. When Dave arrived a little after 11, the first thing he did was take a 15-minute break. Long drive? I understood. There was still most of the day ahead of us, and after the break, Dave finally got down to business booting up his computer. He had barely logged in when he stood up and announced he was taking his lunch. Okay, something was going on, but I hadn't the foggiest idea what. After lunch, Dave finally got around to some work, putting in a good 20 minutes reading emails before stopping by to see me. I'm going to take my second 15 now, then I'm heading home. What? Dave grinning like a nut. Don't worry, I spoke to HR over the weekend. I didn't see Dave on Tuesday. His cell phone was going unanswered, and neither my boss or I had any luck finding out why. We did try hard, not our zoo and not our monkey, after all. Ditto for Wednesday, but whatever, he's probably just sick. And then on Thursday, I see Dave, before work, at the hotel breakfast buffet. Dave, I was getting worried when you were no-show for the last 2 days. Dave told me a little, and after we piled our plates with bad scrambled eggs and burnt sausage, told me a story. On Monday, the client had noticed him coming in late, doing no work, and leaving early, and called our company to complain. Dave, in turn, was called into a disciplinary meeting with his boss and local HR, who were prepared to terminate him over putting in for 32 hours of unearned overtime the previous week and not working at all the day before. Dave said they were serious too. One of the guys from building security interrupted the meeting to deliver a box containing the personal effects from his desk. Dave had an ace though. Well, 3 aces. An email from his boss instructing him to drive to Fort Wayne every day at his own expense as a change in work location. 1. An email from corporate HR telling him that while he wasn't required to work overtime, he was required to report any overtime worked, including driving to or from a client. 2. And a page from his division's employee manual 3, which covered paid breaks off-site. He then informed them that he was not working any more overtime, and after 3 hours driving in, 1.5 hours of breaks, and 3 hours home, it left him with just a half-hour a day to do actual work. Less, actually, if the traffic was bad. Oh, and that corporate HR was willing to stand behind him on it. He'd just spoken to them before the meeting. Dave, it took them about 3 seconds to realize that they were screwed, and well, here I am, back in action. And since everything was booked last minute, I am in a suite with a jacuzzi, and my rental is a goddamn Cadillac. Yes! Nice. Bought someone to drive for 6 hours and 1.5 hours of breaks. Nice. That is just brilliant. Oh, I must paint my garage? Sure thing. A friend of mine lived in a pretty big neighborhood with a pretty strict HOA. It was the first house at the bottom of the hill that you saw when you drive in. He asked and was allowed to add a garage onto his house and did so, signing it with cedar planks. It looked great. His HOA disagreed and told him that by the bylaws state all exposed walls must be painted. He tried to appeal but was shot down ominously. So he checked the bylaws further and found that while it was stated that all walls must be painted, there was absolutely no mention of colour constrictions. By the time he was done, each plank was a different primary colour and there was nothing they could do about it. They were furious with him and he laughed his ass off. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's just brilliant. She's like, a big old, fuck you. Okay. One last story. Or maybe 2 more. Have a problem with the policy? Fine. I'll change it. I used to work as an administrator in a secondary school in the US, grades 9 to 12, around 10 years ago. We were a school that didn't have a specific zone or neighborhood, so to speak. Some of our students lived 30 to 45 minutes from the school, which made it necessary for us to sometimes conduct business with parents or guardians over the phone as opposed to in person. One day I met with a senior, grade 12, who was in a class that he and his father had deemed too hard for him, and since they didn't want it impacting his ability to attend college, asked for him to be changed out of the class. It was early in the semester and there was plenty of space available in other courses, so I had no problem doing it after a conversation over the phone with his father. The student was a good guy, and he was totally grateful for me to help him out. He would now get to enjoy his last year a little more, with one less difficult class to worry about. The next day I get a phone call in my office from Mum, who is irate. She spends approximately 5 minutes berating me about changing his schedule. I indicated to her that Dad was on the contact list for her son, and he was allowed to make these decisions if he chose to do so. She is the person who put Dad on there several years before. Evidently, Mum put Dad on the list before their divorce. She had raised the child over the last several years by herself, according to her, and she would make all of the decisions. I didn't notice, and the records didn't reflect it. Since she knew this argument wasn't going to work, the next objection was against our policy of making decisions over the phone. The conversation went something like this. Mum, how do you know for sure it was his dad on the phone? There's no way you can be sure. I can't believe you would ever make a decision like this without a parent present. By doing business over the phone, you could be speaking to anyone. She continued on, and I tried to explain that it is necessary at times to use the phone since parents work in another town and may have to travel an hour or more to get to the school. Well, she wasn't buying it. So finally I relented. Ma'am, you are right. I will no longer make decisions like this over the phone. I'm going to insist parents come in and meet with me in person. Good. Now I need my son to be put back into the class he was originally. Ma'am, I'm sorry. You are going to have to come in and meet with me. I'm no longer changing schedules over the phone. How do I know you are this student's mother? I can't do that. I live 45 minutes from the school. I work every day. It was at this point she dropped all of her objections. You see the problem? Like, you don't see the problem until you're looking right at it in the face. Why? Just dumb. Force this kid to take the final? Fine. He'll take it. So this happened years ago when I was in high school, but I smile every time I think of it. My high school had a policy that anyone who has missed less than a certain number of school days could pick one class that had A in to skip the final. You could get a couple extra days for college visits, but otherwise it was very straightforward. Awesome policy, and we all loved it. One year we had this kid who was in 8th grade and had been diagnosed with cancer. He spent a lot of his year sick, getting treatment, going to the hospital, running to the bathroom to throw up. Despite all this, he finished the year with an A in his Spanish class. It was his only high school class, so it was the only final he would be able to skip. Administration was not going to let him skip the final because he had missed too much in school. He and his parents asked them to make an exception, given the situation, but administration wouldn't budge. His teacher stood up for him, but was told this kid had to take the final no matter what. He had missed too many days, and there would be no exception. The teacher said, okay, but told her class not to study for, worry about, or exempt her final. Then, the first day all her students show up for the final, she told them to take out a piece of paper and number it 1 to 3, leaving one line in between each number. She then asked 3 questions along the line of, what is your name? How do you say yes in Spanish? And how do you say hello in Spanish? She then collected the final. Everyone got 100 that year, and she became a legend. The kid has been cancer-free for over 5 years now. So, this kid had cancer. They forced him to take a test. So the teacher turns around, okay, 3 questions. And everyone gets 100, and the kid has been cancer-free for 5 years. That is a win for every single person in the story except the administration. Oh my goodness. Just, why? Why do you have to do that stuff, schools? Anyways, links will be in the description to my main channel and also this channel and everything else that I use. Also links to the playlist and the last episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. Ding, ding. I'm the Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist